Hey, this is Gene. This is a video response to Sam's Peoples from his channel is United Peoples TV, and I'm responding to his video he did today about Bruno Fernandez, and the story is that there's a possibility that we can get 100 million for the club, and Bruno himself will get in the neighborhood of like $200 million over 3 years. Obviously, that's life-changing money, but he doesn't really need it, to be honest. But and I do actually believe that Bruno doesn't really want to leave. I think he wants to be an actual legend of the club. So I don't think he would leave on his own volition. But why I'm responding to this is I just he's already said in his video, and I'm going to talk about some of his tweets he has said recently, and meanwhile, I agree with a lot of his sentiments on Bruno, but responding to his actual video today, I have to just question a few things here. Truly, yes, he's 30 years old. Obviously, you know the 30-year-old guys now with their fitness levels, how they eat, they're like 25. Even though he's somebody who's played a lot of football, I think he probably would equate to a world-class 27-year-old midfielder, because he keeps himself in shape. He doesn't really get injured. He's not so physical where he's always getting injured doing that. Excuse me. But the issue I had with his video is he's always defended him, but we have to go early in the season when he was really out of form. And it seems like he was always let's just say if a normal Bruno performance would have been like 6 out of 10, and whatever that means, right? Might have a goal, might get an assist, do something, and that's a normal Bruno type of thing because he usually has one of those things every other game. There was times in his season that he was probably a 5 and a 4.5 at some of those times. And then it seems like that he improved his play after when Keno came out and said what he said about him. And that's kind of strange to me that he needed that type of motivation to do better. Could have been that after a few times in the new system, he just got better. Players around him got better, whatever. But the last 3 or 4 games, he played okay in the Europa League. But it just seems like after the story came out, and this is something I need to talk about, he made it sound like this was the first thing that the Saudi club was actually bid for him. They did this like a month ago. And at that point, it looks like it's actually turned his head a little bit. He has not played as well as he did coming up to those games. He went back to where he was in a lot of games before that. So at this point, are we getting a really consistent player? And can we do anything with the money? Probably not. I think that he's right. Who are we going to respond? How are we going to replace what he actually gives the game or the team? When you look at how much his assists and goals are. Now, remember, most of his stuff he's got a lot of penalties, and he's had a lot of goals that probably should have happened off his assists. And I do want him to stay, but sometimes he's been so fervent to support him that I think that he can't really see past that. And then he says that are 15 or 20 guys that will get rid of him before him, and he's the captain. And I said, look, the question I have to ask Sam is this. He is the captain of Manchester United. He's the captain of our worst Premiership team ever, performance-wise and where we are in the league. Should he be allowed to stay with that type of performance? If he's leading by example, if he's supposed to be the leader, how would we allow that to happen? And why would he still be the captain? he has to be. He's not the coach, of course, but something is not right with that team if he can't lead them well enough as the captain of the team. So I think part of the reason why is where we are is because he sometimes can be very inconsistent. He sometimes gets out of positions. He was probably, I'm not going to say that was his worst performance of the year, but it probably is his last, probably the last or bottom five of all his performances of this year. He lost the ball so much, and not like he normally does, but this was more like he lost the ball in the midfield, hitting a pass six yards from each other. You have to ask ourselves, he can lead us to certain things, but when we get to the finish line, he has not allowed us to get to that next place. So it's a very difficult situation. I don't necessarily like the take about Ineos. Um, I I think that they would rather keep him because everybody's going to say if we sell him, it's going to be because we need the money. And the way that Ineos is done with their things and got rid of a lot of players or a lot of redundant people in the staff, um, that they're going to blame him for it. So they're going to just continually get bad press, and maybe they deserve it. Just my point is simply this: at some point you have to, if we're going to actually have a reset, and Sam talked about this, that we're starting from a foundational level next year. I don't think a 31-year-old midfielder that doesn't really sit or really has the system. And I get I read what he said earlier today, saying that it shouldn't matter what the system is. Uh, these players should be Manchester United players, and it shouldn't matter what coach we bring in. But if we're actually going to have a reset and we're going to start from a fundamental, foundational thing, I think probably the right thing to do is probably get rid of your captain and start over. And that means getting rid of a lot of other players and promote the youth to backfill those areas. If we get $100 million, and I don't think that's going to be the opening salvo. Okay, if Manchester United or Bruno gives his blessing to leave, I don't think he will. But if he does, and that's another thing we have to get out. If Bruno gives his blessing to go to Saudi Arabia, it's the player's decision. It's not Ineos then. He's saying, okay, I'll do it. Regardless, he realizes now he's not going to playing for a team in Europe and playing for the Champions League and all that stuff. He'll understand that. That's going to be his decision. So this thing that we're going to blame Ineos and stuff, that has to stop. These are businessmen, and they're going to do what's best for the club, the team, regardless of what you might actually think about it. So if we're going to actually have a I had a stroke. A fundamental discussion about this, the best thing you probably can do is get rid of him, get rid of a lot of the other players, and I mean you're talking about 200 or 300 million that we're going to have, that we can go out and get players that we can target to come to play. Now the issue then is we're not in Europe, and it could be that people will not want to come. So it might take a couple transfer windows, but there are a lot of really good players in the championship right now. People on Europe that could play that system that he tried to play here in Portugal. So it's not like we can't get some of those players to come here. Clearly he knows the type of players that he would want to be in the system. And I know he doesn't want, from a personal level, because he's a player's coach, he doesn't want Bruno to leave because he wants Bruno to actually win something other than a domestic cup at Manchester United. And I know that that's what Emran wants. But at the same point, these are adult men. They can make these decisions. It should not be now. It's the only reason why we're doing this is because we need money for the club. The idea that you think that for the top level of the club that we need to do this because we're losing money and we got to get rid of Bruno. Okay, that's a fair statement, but it's it's separate from when you tell other people that you're just doing because he's 31 years old. Well, it's the same thing. It's Ferguson would have never kept him. And as an older guy, I was alive when we did get relegated. It's like that was like the first year I was watching them. They got relegated as a kid. Now again, being in the United States, it's hard to follow them, but I knew about that, And then when Ferguson came in, but back under how old were we on? I didn't even know who we were back then. I forgot the coach, but I remember Atkinson and all that shit. Um, so this is obviously rock bottom for the Premiership years, obviously, but it's. I don't think it's as much. It is what it is, I know he wants to fucking stay. I know this because he wants to be a legend. I know these type of players that are world class. They want to make sure that their legacy is tied to one of the top clubs in the world, and I'm sure it killed him for not play as well as he can. But it is, unfortunately, it is what it is. I don't think it's black and white to say that Ineos would just sell him because they need $100 million because the team is in financial ruin. I think that's I'm not going to say naive, but I think that it's a little bit not really going down to the hole. If we actually think that if we're going to go down, if you actually believe this, and Sam said this, that we want to start from a foundation to start again, not a reset, but actually just to get a new foundation, you probably want to get rid of the guys that have been there for a while that need no longer to be at the club. And you can make the statement that I would not get rid of, he would be the 15th or 20th of the guys I get rid of. Obviously, as a talent level and all that stuff, I agree with him. But the thing is, he's been there, right? He hasn't been here longer than like Shaw or something, but he's the next level of those guys who've been there for 5-6 years. They had decent seasons, not playing really good football. Even under Ole, we didn't play very well. We had a couple times that we looked something. Van Gaal and under Mourinho, we have never played like we used to play. I don't know what that means. I mean, the game has changed, of course. So I think that would probably be the first person you would sell. And that would put a shockwave through the rest of the teams, realizing that no matter who you are, you might get sold. And it won't be because he didn't do what he had to do and the fact that he won the Player of the Year. Okay. He was Player of the Year on a team that finished 17th, possibly. He was the captain on a team that finished 17th. I am not Roy Keane. I'm not going to sit there and say certain things that almost becomes personal on him. I think he was very inconsistent. And then for about 2 or 3 months, he played well. But at the same time, our point production got lower and lower in the league. He played well in Europe. But I think that we were better than every team we played in Europe. And when we played Tottenham, we were at the same level, I guess. I think we got out physical in the final, but we outplayed them. There's no question that we outplayed them. Now, again, they played their way. Great, they did that. They had the ability because we allowed a goal in, and now they could say back, and it just worked out for them. Okay, and it's happened to us in certain times in the past when we were outplayed and we ended up winning the game. Several times against City, we did that. So it is what it is. So basically, that's it. I love Sam. I think he's one of the best commentators about United online. He did have a couple tweets after the game. He started saying things that, early on he talked about that he has anger. I mean, I have no anger at the players. I don't know no anger at the owners. I might, but what they've done in the background and all the people gotten fired. I don't know enough about that to sit there and say whether or not that's necessary or not. Maybe we were way too fat when it comes to that. But I have no anger from the coach, no anger for the players. I know they all tried to win that game. I think he said in his tweet that the United players should have more effort than the people that got there. And I'm understanding his physical issues. Yeah, I mean, I watched him after the game. I saw his review after the game, and he's hobbling around. And yeah, I have all nothing but respect for him. But it means it doesn't make any sense. And I get it. I'm not in Manchester or around Manchester. I'm a United States guy. I get it. Of course, I've been there. I've served in England and Germany. This love I have for this country, and for Manchester United has been 50 years in my life. So it's not like I get it, right? My anger would never be at the players. There's no way in my mind that I think they came out there and said, "Oh, I'm not going to give anything." And the fact to say that they didn't give enough effort, I don't know. I don't believe that. Sometimes you're just not good enough, and when it becomes a one-off game, shit can go against you, and it absolutely went against us. Rasmus could have won, could have tied that game. Uh, there were other opportunities in that game that we could have scored. We didn't do it, and that's been a fundamental theme of this year, especially in the Premiership, that we can't score. So it is indicative that from a football and a business perspective, it would probably is the best thing for him to leave. And I know that Sam likes to defend him, and he should. Every supporter can do whatever they want to do when it comes to their players. But I'm above that. I believe what's best for the club. And the club, if we're going to use Sam's own words about this, he is the captain of a team that was the worst it's ever been in the history of the Premiership for Manchester United. He didn't really show up to his full potential in the final. It's probably about time for him to go. And all we can do, if Bruno wants to stay, then fine. I'm fine with it, and I would never get upset with a player who wants to stay. But we have to make this clear. If he decides to go, it's his choice. It's not Ino's choice. There is no way that this club, there's no way that they would do this just like that, because they would get so much bad press regardless. And there are a lot of people that don't like Bruno as a player on some of the biggest fan channels that there is out there. Some of their biggest quote-unquote stars on there had said shit about Bruno for years, who thought that McTominay and Fred and Eriksson should start all the time. And there's sometimes I probably might have agreed for that. I thought that a lot of times that Bruno runs around with his head cut off. Same thing that Pogba did for a long time. These are so much talent. I mean, we're talking about these are world-class players, Pogba and Bruno. If they would have been on the continent and playing in Italy or in Spain or in France, their numbers would be just unbelievably above that. But the game changed a lot in England in the last 20 years, 10 years. And as good as Bruno is, and I think he's probably the best midfielder, one of the top two midfielders in the Premiership, it's still changed, and it doesn't really match with his style. Again, I don't know where I'm at on him. I just my video before the game, I said we have the best player on the pitch, and I was talking about Bruno, and I said he is the best paid player on the pitch, and he's going to be the difference. He just did not have a good game, and I would never say sell him because of one game, but we have to look at this season. And yes, he was Player of the Year, but we can't continually have this revisionist history when it comes to our players. He was poor before Christmas. He was poor for a while until Roy said what he did, and it just seemed like it put a fire underneath him. Now, again, a lot of it was based on the team itself, and he could have had a lot of. I mean, Garnacho could have had 20 goals this year. He had places that he could. Garnacho could have 20 goals and probably 20 assists. A lot of people missed wide open stuff. We know that through if you believe XG, we should have been probably have another 30 goals this year. And same thing happened at the final the other day. So we need it's people say it's over for us. Okay, fair enough, but it's not really. We need a couple different players in a couple different positions. Probably get a little younger in other places and use our youth. But basically that's it. Again, no disrespect to Sam's people. I think he's one of the best online. Him and Steven Allison. Steven more of a tactical side. I think that I like to listen to his stuff. He gets upset because he lives there and he has to deal with the banter and all that. Being a Manchester United fan, losing to the Spurs in a final. I get it. And I understand it. I mean, Sam actually went to Bilbao to watch that, and he could be up. I understand being upset. I do, and being angry, but you can't. It's not an anger issue. You can be disappointed. I mean, he was there. Maybe he saw that he didn't think the players were playing or actually trying. I didn't see that. I think they give everything that they had. I thought that their tactics might have been a little bit off, and I thought we played a little too slow, a little hesitant. And I think that hurt us in the long run. I think we kept waiting that something was going to happen, and I think if something would have happened, we'd have won that game. But the thing is, other players made stops on the other side. Their goalkeeper made 2 really good saves. Van der Ven did what he did, and when it comes to at this level, it is down to 1 or 2 things in the game. They had theirs, we had 3 or 4, and we didn't do anything with it. So I'm going to just go ahead and stop right there. If Sam, if you watch this, I appreciate that. Any comments you want to have about it, I certainly welcome it, and I would definitely like to talk to you at any time if you have. Give you some of the people that to bounce off your ideas from an American perspective. But anyway, you guys all have a good weekend. I don't think I'm going to watch the last game. I don't want to see what's going to happen. I don't want the fans to boo off our team. But we just move on. That's all we can do. Just move on. I'll talk to you guys later. You have a good weekend. Bye.